Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Naomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I'm your host, Naomi Banks, and today is Threshold Thursday. You know, that powerful space where we stand at the edge of the transformation, ready to step into our next level of being. Well, what a very profound week that we had together, right? Well, Tuesday, I shared about our divine stillness on how the universe forced me to slow down and to receive new downloads. And Wednesday, Dr. Fujan Zane, she opened our minds to awareness integration theory on how AI can support our healing journey. And on Monday, ZY, she showed us on how creativity can be our lifeline through the darkest moments of adversity. Well, today we're exploring the sacred threshold between healing and creating, how these two powerful forces dance together in our lives. So before we do this, let's take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, the goddess, Naomi Banks, here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back. Again, today is Threshold Thursday, and we're talking about the sacred space between healing, all right? So before we get into the topic, let's ground ourselves in this sacred space, all right? So we all could just find a comfortable position, and if it feels right for you, if you can close your eyes. All right, so let's take a deep breath in through your nose. And I want you to imagine yourself standing at that doorway. Behind you is everything that you healed from. All of the work that you've done, all of the growth that you experienced. And in front of you, there is a canvas of infinite possibilities. You've created a future just waiting to unfold. Now I want you to breathe in gratitude for your healing journey. And I want you to breathe out any remaining resistance to expressing that healing through creativity. Breathe in. Out. Now I want you to feel yourself standing in that threshold space, not behind you in the past and not ahead of you in the future, but right here in this powerful present moment where healing becomes creation. Now notice how your wounds have become wisdom. Your struggles have become strength. Your pain has become purpose. And this sacred alchemy of the threshold. Now I want you to place both hands on your heart and repeat with me. My healing is my art. My story is my gift. My journey is my creativity. And I honor both of my struggles and my strength. Now take one more deep breath in. And as you breathe in, I want you to breathe in this sacred threshold space. And when you are ready, open your eyes. All right, my beautiful people, if you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to help ground us before we get into our topic at hand. All right, beautiful people. As I sat with this week's conversation, something profound emerged for me. And there's this sacred space, where healing and creativity meet, and it's not separate. They're not two different things that we do. They're a part of the same divine process. When I was forced into stillness last week, when my body literally shut down on me, it redirected my July plans. It redirected my June plans. And what happened in that space, it wasn't just healing. It was so deeply creative. That Explant podcast vision that downloaded during my recovery, that wasn't separate from my healing process. That was my healing process, expressing its self-creativity. Dr. Fuhan's work with awareness integration theory, it showed us how we can use technology to support our healing in creative ways, right? And in Zi's story, demonstrating on how creativity literally saved her life during her darkest moment. Well, today I want to explore this threshold, this sacred space with our healing, where our healing can become our art, where our wounds can become our wisdom, and where our struggles become our strength. So let's talk about understanding the threshold. Now, when I say threshold, I mean that space between who we were and who we are becoming. It's that space between the pain and the purpose, between the trauma and the transformation. So on Monday, she shared something so powerful about celebrating small wins. She said that even when she only had $5 for food and was eating half of a Subway sandwich a day, she would say, God damn, this is so good. I am so grateful. That's threshold living. Finding the sacred in the survival. Finding the creative in the crisis. You see, the threshold isn't comfortable. It isn't. It's not supposed to be. It's the space where we're no longer who we were, but we're not yet all who we are becoming. And in the uncertainty, it is the very vulnerability of it. That's where our most authentic creative expression is born. So let's talk about the alchemy of pain into purpose. So let me be real with you. I used to think that I had to be healed before I could create. I thought that I had to have all my stuff together, all my trauma processed, all of my wounds bandaged up neat and pretty before I can share my story or I can express myself creatively. But what I've learned is what this week has shown us so beautifully is that the healing is the creating. The creating is the healing. So when Zi said on Monday, when she said that she was in the garage, working multiple jobs, crying in parking lots, she was simultaneously healing and creating. She was creating a new life, a new story, a new version of herself. Her survival was her art. So when I was laying in bed with swollen legs, unable to walk, and receiving the downloads for that Explant podcast series, that wasn't healing first, then creating. That was healing through creating, and creating through healing. Dr. Fuhan's clients who use this app, They aren't waiting until they're fixed to start living. They're using creativity, their guided journal, their guided journaling, their meditation, even the creative process of dialogue with AI has a part of their healing journey. Even. So now let's talk about creative power of vulnerability. One of the most beautiful things that ZIs that she shared yesterday was about celebrating small wins, about looking in the mirror and saying, I'm so proud of you even when you're at your lowest point. That's not just healing. That's just not healing work. That is creative work. She was creating a new relationship with herself. She was creating a new neural pathways. She was creating a new way of being. That threshold space is where we get to be vulnerable with our creativity. It's where we stop waiting for permission to express ourselves and start expressing ourselves as a form of healing. You know, I think about my own journey every time I thought I was ready to create or to share my story or to step into my purpose, life will redirect me. It will redirect me. But what I understand now is that the redirections they were not delays, that they were a part of my creative process. So when I left the adult industry, I thought I had to have the perfect transition plan. I did. When I tell you I used to have these 5-year plans set up, I had it boom, 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 boom. When I retired from the industry, I planned that I was going to continue on Playboy Radio. And then from there, I was going to build my dungeon. See, y'all didn't know that. I was going to build a dungeon for my BDSM, being a professional dom, do that. Then, create my radio show. So I had so many things that was going to align. And that wasn't what happened. It wasn't. The thing is that life has other ideas for me. God had other ideas for me. The universe has other ideas for me. And see, even in the messy, imperfect, in the vulnerable transformation, it became the very material for Ask Naomi. I remember, so let me tell you this. Even when I retired from the industry, I retired when I was in the industry when I was pregnant with my third child, with my last child. And in that process of me understanding, okay, this is what I have to do. And I was still doing chocolate radio. I was still doing radio over there at Playboy. I think at that time it was something else, Naughty Neighbor or something. It was something like that. And then I created chocolate radio when it moved over. But even through that process, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then when we were all let go, I still stayed with chocolate radio and created a whole online internet with it, where I had several different shows with several different hosts that were doing different shows on that. But then I remember when we left California and we moved to, and we bought a house here in Las Vegas. And I remember sitting like, what am I going to do now? I was still doing my OnlyFans. I still had my my intimate seduction lingerie line. I actually just been nominated for an award for AVN for the lingerie line. I had just finished doing 2 big runways, one in LA and one in New York. So I was on the road with it. And then we had to move. Some stuff happened where we got scammed. But in that scam, and I can say this, even in that scam that was happening to us, that unbeknownst to us, it was helping us build something to be able to get this home, to purchase this home, own this home, and be able to build something from that. And I remember sitting on the couch and I remember saying, there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. And at that time, I was not doing radio anymore. I was just really focused on intimate seduction and my cosmetic line. I was more on that and just doing the OnlyFans, and that was just to help bring money in to keep my money flow going. So me doing radio and anything like that, I wasn't doing it anymore, but I knew that my voice was still needed out there. And so I remember talking about doing Ask Naomi. So even though during that whole time I was going through, it was messy. And as I said, it was so imperfect, excuse me. And even through our transition from LA, from California to Las Vegas, I knew it was something that I needed to do. And so I remember looking through my emails and saw that I had hundreds and hundreds of emails for Ask Naomi. People were still sending in letters from Ask Naomi. And I would answer those emails, but I wouldn't record it or speak about it. I will just answer them and send them out. And so that's how Ask Naomi actually came about. Ask Naomi was where I will read the letter, and then I will answer the letter right there. And then I will, put it up on my YouTube page. And then let's fast forward about a year or two later. I remember saying, there's something that needs to happen. And actually, I was getting ready to start doing a podcast anyway. And I started interviewing a few people. I had been going to different things. I just didn't know quite what I was going to do with that interview, but I knew I wanted to get back into that space, that interviewing space, that radio type of space, but didn't know quite what I wanted to do with it. And I figured I was going to put it online. And so I know I'm making this really long, but I remember I was contacted by a company that had heard my chocolate radio shows, had heard my shows on Playboy, and asked, was I ready to get back into the swing of things? And I said, yeah. And so they were like, okay, do you have anything that you've done recently? I said, well, actually, I have been working on some things, thinking about doing some things and getting back into it. And they asked me to send it over to them, and I did. And they said, well, great, we get ready to build this whole platform, podcast with several different things, and we would love for you to be a part. And they gave me, some numbers, a certain speed. We would send you over a contract. And in the process of sending me over the contract, when I got the contract, I said, no, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not doing this. I had a record deal, and it just seemed just like the record deal. And I remember going through this negotiation for months. We went through negotiations. I talked to 3 different people in negotiating it for months. And I didn't do it. And so I remember sitting there. I remember sitting at my altar at that time, and I had a young altar at that time. And I remember sitting there, and I remember hearing, you can do this on your own. You can do Ask Naomi, Bridging the Gap podcast on your own. And I sat there and I did it. And I remember, and I'm going to share this with you all as well. I remember sitting there and thinking, did I just miss an opportunity? Did I just miss an opportunity? And then I said, I'm just going to have to keep going, because if that opportunity was meant for me, it will come back around. It will come back around. And so, but in that, what Ask Naomi was created. But then years later, which became the material for this season of self-love. So through my healing journey, it didn't just happen separately from my creative journey. It is my creative journey. It is. I know I was a little long-winded in there, but I just had to remind folks exactly how, and remind myself exactly how Ask Naomi Bridging the Gap came. I'm always reminded of how the season of self-love became, because that was so, it was such a moving and transitional time in my life. This is after I turned 50. I was turning 51. It was a birthday gift to myself, with the season of self-love being a series. But then I forgot where the foundation was created from. And I just had to, that was just something that said that I had to voice that there. All right, so let's go back to this. So So the tools for the threshold, let's talk about that now. So how do we work with the threshold energy, right? How do we honor both our healing and our creating without trying to separate them? First, embrace the mess. Embrace the mess. So as you saw with the little story that I shared with us moving from LA to Las Vegas, to me, wanting to get back into the interviewing space, the radio space, even turning down, the podcast deal. And right now they are doing amazing things over there on that platform, but I did not want to give that much ownership of my things. But all of that, it created something so beautiful with Ask Naomi Bridging the Gap podcast in the season of self-love. What ZY, what she showed us on Monday so beautifully is that she didn't wait until her life was perfect to start celebrating wins. She celebrated wins in the mess, in the struggle, in the midst of the chaos. And that threshold, it was creating not in spite of the mess, but with the mess. But with the mess and through the mess. Second is to trust the downloads. So like Dr. Fuhan app, her app uses receiving insights through guided journaling, or even my explant podcast vision. I just got so tongue-tied right there. Podcast vision coming during illness. That's when we're in that threshold space. That's when we're more open to receiving creative guidance. So don't dismiss the ideas that come during the most vulnerable moments. Those might be exactly what you are meant to create. And the third is to start where you are. ZR started with $5 in a car. She didn't wait until she had resources. She used what she had. So your healing journey right now, exactly as it is material for your creative expression. You don't need to be further along. You need to start from here. Fourth, use your voice as medicine. Every time ZY spoke her truth to her boss, asking for help, to herself in the mirror, celebrating small wins, to us yesterday sharing, for her to share with us on Monday, her story, she was using her voice both as healing and a creative expression. Our voice, your voice, telling your truth is medicine for you and for others who need to hear it. Let's talk about the community at the threshold. There's one thing that struck with me about all of our conversations this week in the power of community in threshold spaces. When I was forced into stillness, Dr. Will was there reminding me to rest. He was reminding me to rest. When my plans got redirected, the right people showed up to support my new direction. ZY's boss, who welcomed her into his garage that was threshold community. Dr. Fuhan created Mara to be a supportive presence for people in their healing journey. That's threshold community. At the threshold, we need people who can see our potential even when we can't see it ourselves. We need people who can mirror back our strength when we feel weak. Our creativity, our creative when we feel stuck, our worth when we feel worthless. But here's the beautiful thing. Being at the threshold also makes us that person for others. When we're willing to be vulnerable about our healing journey, when we're willing to share our creative process, even when it's messy, when we become threshold community for others, that's the ripple effect. That's the ripple effect that threshold is creating. We create from that threshold when we let our healing become our art. Something magical happens when we give others permission to do the same. You see, ZY's story on Monday wasn't just about her healing from domestic violence. And if you missed that episode, please go back to it because it was an amazing episode. It was about showing us that creatively can be a lifeline. Creativity can be a lifeline, that small wins matters, that we can find gratitude even in the darkest moments. And Dr. Fuhan's journey of turning her own healing process into a tool that helps thousands of others, that's Thresholds creating at its finest. And my own journey of turning personal transformation into a daily podcast confirmation with you. That's what happens when we stop trying to separate our healing from our creating. When we create from the threshold, we create permission for others to do the same. We create bridges between pain and purpose. We create pathways from struggle to strength. So your threshold moment, right now in this moment, you're at the threshold. Maybe it's a threshold between fear and courage. Or maybe it's between hiding and expressing. Or maybe it's between just believing that you're broken and knowing you're whole. But the threshold isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about being willing to create with whatever you have, wherever you are, and however you feel it. ZY didn't wait until she wasn't confident to start celebrating wins. She celebrated wins to build confidence. And I didn't wait until I was completely healed to start sharing my story. I shared my story as part of my healing. And Dr. Fuhan, she didn't wait until she had all of the answers to start helping others. She used her journey to create tools for other people's journeys. So what threshold are you standing at right now? What healing wants you to become creative? What struggle wants to become strength? And what story wants to be told? All right, my beautiful people, as we close today's episode, I want you to remember that you don't have to choose between healing and creating. They're not separate processes. They're not. They're a part of the same divine dance. Your wounds are not disqualifications from creativity. They're qualifications. Did you hear me what I said? Your wounds are not disqualifications from your creativity. They're qualifications. Your struggles are not reasons to hide. They are reasons to share. And your healing journey is not preparation for your real life. It is your real life. And it is worthy of creative expression right now. But tomorrow on Freedom Friday, we're going to celebrate what happens when we fully embrace this dance between healing and creating, when we step fully into our power as creative beings who heal through expressions and express through healing. But today, your assignment is to identify one way your healing journey wants to become creative expression. Maybe it's writing one paragraph about your expression. Maybe it's taking one photo that represents your journey. Maybe it's having one authentic conversation about what you're going through. But I want you to remember that you're not waiting for permission to create, that you're not waiting to be ready, that you're creating from the threshold, that you're healing through expression, and that you're expressing through healing. The world needs your story. It needs your art. It needs your voice. Not somebody when you're better today, but exactly as you are. I love you. I see you, and I honor your courage to create from that sacred threshold of your healing journey. So until tomorrow, keep healing through creating, and creating through healing. Have a beautiful and authentic Thursday. Have an amazing day. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.